So we started off in Melbourne. It was my first trip abroad, and it was just a good place to practice shooting some street photography. The weather was definitely not sunny, though our last day did have some good weather. I found some variety, and it was good practice for me shooting in the street. On the cloudy days, we went to the library, which is majestic in the Victorian style. I also went ahead and practiced some street photography, to some success and some failure. We then went to the metropolis that is Tokyo, and these sights are unlike anything else that I'd ever experienced before from my little country view. Of course, we had to do Shibuya Station, and maybe I took one too many photos here, but that's what traveling is. Taking one too many photos, but you definitely look back at it with fond memories. One of the reasons why I love traveling is that it takes the non-repetitive and brings it into your life, and you're able to just get gorgeous views when the moment arises for you. Tokyo is a place unlike any other when it comes to shooting street photography and night photography. We then headed off to Mount Fuji. This has been on my bucket list for a while. I've wanted to go ahead and shoot Mount Fuji, and I had a particular image in mind when it came to shooting this mountain. Now, shooting it in the middle of winter may not have been the best idea, but we made the most of it even in the very cold weather.
Sorry babe, I need to be flat.
And I'm so lucky and fortunate to have taken this off my bucket list. We then headed to Kyoto. Of course, we did all the tourist traps, but that's what you do when you're there. We also went to a Michelin star restaurant, and it was worth the wait. We also took photos when we weren't supposed to, but it probably helps when you have an old school camera. As I said before, I went to all the tourist traps, but if you get there early enough and really push through, you can get some amazing, beautiful shots. We went to the Emperor's Palace, and this place here was amazing. It had barely any tourists, and was like stepping into another land, another time. I also went out at night and shot a bit of street photography around Kyoto, which was a different feel and vibe to the metropolis that is Tokyo. I then had bought this Pentax 110 whilst I was in Kyoto, and I went out in the morning to the Starbucks. Yeah, that Starbucks. The one that you see on Instagram and TikTok. But when do you get to do such things? You've got to make the most of these opportunities. We then headed off to Osaka, which actually had the most fairest weather out of all the cities in Japan that we went to. Osaka is a metropolis the size of Tokyo, but without the density and population. You can have some very beautiful open and broad spaces that are not crowded like Tokyo. And you'll see some interesting characters when you are out and about. We even saw in the middle of the water this big floating duck. And of course, we went to Namba because whilst the rest of Osaka is very broadly open, Namba is the place to be. And there was a few photos that I knew that I wanted to recreate. I didn't want originality, I just wanted to take that iconic photo too. We then headed off and left Japan on our way to China. We made it to Shanghai, which is a completely different vibe than Japan. And this is a camera store unlike any other. Whilst everyone says Japan is the place to go for cameras, I disagree. We then ended up at the Shanghai Camera Exchange. And going in here is unlike any other camera store that you will ever go into. It is a gigantic complex, absolutely brimmed with old cameras, new cameras, and film. We even managed to find a camera repair guy and some very, very expensive cameras that I would love to take home with me.
This thing is worth a lot. I know exactly what it is. Remember when I said Leicas are really expensive?
We went out at night and did street photography. It was quite a different vibe to what I'd been doing previously. We then headed out to all the tourist traps in Shanghai, where I shot some Chinese film. And I also shot Harmon Phoenix. Everyone talks about how certain film stocks like Fuji or Orwo or even Harmon Phoenix really love the color red. Well, if I have a recommendation for you, if you love shooting any of those film stocks, come to China. Red is everywhere, all over the streets. And if you want your photos to have that rich red tones that pop in the image, this is where you want to go. This photo, at the time, I didn't realize this would be the photo that I would hang up on my wall. but unlike my normal photos, this here is rich and vibrant with lots of information, but not in a way that is a burden. Shanghai, whilst we were there, was having really bad pollution, so it gave us this otherworldly look. Whilst we didn't get the clear skies, it gave me something else that was a little bit different. At night, I headed out and shot some respooled cinema film, which, due to the atmospheric conditions, gave some very interesting compositions. We then spent our last day up on a very tall tower that span around, so we got a 360 view of the city, where I was able to get a number of shots of different views all around the city. We then headed off to Ching's home city of Zhaoqing. Zhaoqing is the most beautiful city in China, in my opinion. It has this beautiful temple on the side of a mountain that is unlike anything else that you've ever been to, and it is gigantic. And then there is this lake. This lake is huge, but it looks like one of those Chinese paintings and makes for some stunning backdrops. And this small little city, as they say, of 5 million, which is the same as my country's population, can be a great setting for some very striking street photography. We then headed off to Guangzhou, which was a totally different experience than anywhere else. I went out to go shoot some street photography. But whilst I was out shooting street photography, we came across this garden that was just filled with cats. And I mean just filled with cats. It was kind of like a little Studio Ghibli film in many ways. A mixture of both the natural environment that was somewhat otherworldly, but at the same time you can see the backdrops of the city. These cats, they were everywhere, littered it like spirits. And whilst I was there, I'd got hold of some Chinese colour film that is no longer manufactured, and I was able to shoot it, and luckily for me, it was in really good condition. So I was able to go ahead and shoot China on Chinese colour film, an experience that few will have been able to get. Whilst I was in Guangzhou, I managed to pick up a Fujica 690 to add to my collection. So I went out, walked about, did a few more street photos, and tested this camera out, and it was worth it. So I headed back to New Zealand on my own, whilst Ching stayed in China. Headed out to Auckland, I walked about a fair bit, and I just shot what I wanted to shoot, walked where I wanted to go, and just traveled about, trying to find something interesting to photograph. I also shot my first EDM gig in quite a while, and that was an experience. I had some cinema film to burn, and maybe this wasn't the best usage of the film, but nevertheless, it gave me some lessons to learn. Once I was back in my hometown, I caught up with a few friends. All of us are each going in our own ways, and it was such a good catch up because so many of my friends are really moving on with their lives. Buying houses, having kids, traveling to wherever they want to live. Each moment we catch up, we cherish.
You finding a difference?
Oh yeah, massively.
After that, I headed down to Wanaka, where I spent some time with one of my good friends and just relaxed. I was just able to go in my own flow and photograph what I wanted and just spend some time capturing the New Zealand scenery. Then I made it to Queenstown, where, again, I just relaxed. I captured the New Zealand scenery and I got some gorgeous photos whilst I was there. After that, I headed back to Wellington to go to my favourite fried chicken place that was closing down. Where I got this photo of the team. I then caught up with a few of my friends in Wellington and started to plan out 2024 properly. Was Som's Island. It wasn't long before the island was going to be shut down for most of the year. So I had some film that I wanted to have another go at, which I was able to do to mixed results. I then spent some time with Ching when she got back, and we went around a few festivals where she got to try out her new camera that had been fixed. Talking of festivals, I shot a few gigs this year. Many of them on cameras that you would not shoot, just to challenge myself. And on many of those challenges, I exceeded what I thought was capable and pushed the boundaries of gig photography, in my opinion. I spent a fair amount of time going to a particular region whilst I was here in Wellington this year, hiking around to the other side of the peninsula, where I spent a lot of time photographing this lighthouse. I then also spent many a morning getting up very early to get a sunrise shot. I wouldn't say I've got the perfect sunrise photo just yet, but I do believe within the next year or two, that one sunrise photo that will almost have been unbelievable to have been taken, I believe I'm almost there. We also spent some time down in Dunedin, where the unbelievable sunrise photo is almost within my grasp. Once spring began to arrive, I spent some time in the world of macro photography, spending it with all the little buzzy bees flying around and pollinating flowers. It was a challenge, but that's what 2024 has been, a year of challenges, and I've tried my best to meet them. This was me on the very last sunrise photo that I would be taking in Wellington for the year. The sun had moved too far from where I wanted it to be, but this is all part of learning. I then spent some time in the Botanic Gardens. I found a beehive, and I just knew that I had to take a photo of it. And it became my new focus of interest for November. You don't often find a beehive in a city. I finished off 2024 with my last project, the Hikoi. This was a massive protest here in my city of Wellington, which is where our government resides. This was something else entirely that I'd never photographed before. It allowed me to bring up topics and conversations that I've never been able to bring up before with my audience. Over the year, my channel has grown. 2024 has presented a series of challenges for myself. It has provided a series of opportunities as well. Whilst definitely not a perfect year, it has definitely been a year of growth. It has given me many lessons to learn, and hopefully I'm able to take those lessons and make 2025 an even more successful year. So as always, it's been real, guys. Until next time.